Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books. And we are currently reading the Srimad-Bhagavatam, the Bhagavad Purana, the literature, which is an eternal literature that was brought into this Kali Yuga by Vyasadeva at the very beginning of the Kali Yuga, and which is the literary incarnation of God, of Krishna, and is given shelter to the conditioned souls after Krishna left this world 5,000 years ago. So Sanatana Goswami has written a very beautiful prayer in Sanskrit, which was kindly translated for us into English. And we read this every day in order to edify us and to help us go deeper into understanding of what we're hearing. It's called Srimad-Bhagavata Mahima Stotram. And it goes like this. Sarva Shastrabdi Piyusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadya Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths. You are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabho Kalidwandoditaditya Shri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master, Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshaksharayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who were supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Matsangin Madguru Man Mahadana Man Nistadaga Mad Bhagya Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu saduta dayin adini chochatakara hanamuncha gadachin mam premna ritkanta yospuda. O bestower of saintliness to the most saintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So Narada Muni is continuing to explain an allegorical story to a king who became too attached to his queen and to sacrifices which require killing of animals and things like this. And he's trying to enlighten him about the truth of what he's doing and what he should be doing. And in doing that, he's using analogies for all these different things. And later on, he'll tell exactly what all the analogies mean. But for right now, we're going to hear more of the story of Puranjana. The king had was going into the forest. The king's name in the allegorical story is Puranjana. But he's actually speaking, Narada Muni, to a king named Prachanibarishat. Thanks, Honest John. At that time, King Puranjana was very much influenced by demoniac propensities. Because of this, his heart became very hard and merciless. And with sharp arrows, he killed many innocent animals in the forest, taking no consideration. Purport. When a man becomes too proud of his material position, he tries to enjoy his senses in an unrestricted way, being influenced by the modes of passion and ignorance. He is thus described as asuric or demoniac. When people are demoniac in spirit, they are not merciful toward the poor animals. Consequently, they maintain various animal slaughterhouses. This is technically called suna or hingsa, which means the killing of living beings. In Kali Yuga, due to the increase of the modes of passion and ignorance, almost all men are asuric or demoniac. Therefore, they are very much fond of eating flesh, and for this end, they maintain various kinds of animal slaughterhouses. In this age of Kali, the propensity for mercy is almost nil. Consequently, there is always fighting and wars between men and nations. Men do not understand that because they unrestrictedly kill so many animals, they also must be slaughtered like animals in big wars. This is very much evident in the Western countries. In the West, slaughterhouses are maintained without restriction, and therefore every 5th or 10th year there is a big war in which countless people are slaughtered, even more cruelly than the animals. Sometimes during war, soldiers keep their enemies in concentration camps and kill them in very cruel ways. These are reactions brought about by unrestricted animal killing in the slaughterhouse and by hunters in the forest. Proud demoniac persons do not know the laws of nature or the laws of God. Consequently, they unrestrictedly kill poor animals, not caring for them at all. In the Krishna consciousness movement, animal killing is completely prohibited. One is not accepted as a bona fide student in this movement unless he promises to follow the 4 regulated principles: no animal killing, no intoxication, no illicit sex, and no gambling. This Krishna consciousness movement is the only means by which the sinful activities of men in this Kali Yuga can be counteracted. Text 6. If a king is too attracted to eating flesh, he may, according to the directions of the revealed scriptures on sacrificial performances, go to the forest and kill some animals that are recommended for killing. One is not allowed to kill animals unnecessarily or without restrictions. The Vedas regulate animal killing to stop the extravagance of foolish men influenced by the modes of passion and ignorance. Purport. The question may be raised why a living being should be restricted in sense gratification. If a king, to learn how to kill, may go to the forest and kill animals, why should a living entity who has been given senses not be allowed unrestricted sense gratification? At the present moment, this argument is put forward even by so-called swamis and yogis who publicly say that because we have senses, we must satisfy them by sense gratification. These foolish swamis and yogis, however, do not know the injunctions of the Shastras. Indeed, sometimes these rascals come out to defy the Shastras. They even publicly announce that there should be no more Shastras, no more books. Just come to me, they say, and I shall touch you, and you will become immediately spiritually advanced. Or there was one famous one that wrote a big book about how we don't need books. Because it's going on. Every day it's going on. But because demoniac people want to be cheated, so many cheaters are present to cheat them. At the present moment, in this age of Kali Yuga, the entire human society has become an assembly of cheaters and cheated. For this reason, the Vedic scriptures have given us the proper directions for sense gratification. Everyone is inclined in this age to eat meat and fish, drink liquor, and indulge in sex life. But according to the Vedic injunctions, sex is allowed only in marriage. Meat eating is allowed only when the animal is killed and offered before the goddess Kali, and intoxication is allowed only in a restricted way. In this verse, the word niyamyate indicates that all these things, namely animal killing, intoxication, and sex, should be regulated. Regulations are meant for human beings, not for animals. The traffic regulations on the street, telling people to keep to the right or to the left, are meant for human beings, not for animals. If an animal violates such a law, he is never punished, but a human being is punished. The Vedas are not meant for the animals, but for the understanding of human society. A person who indiscriminately violates the rules and regulations given by the Vedas is liable to be punished. One should therefore not enjoy his senses according to his lusty desires, but should restrict himself according to the regulated principles given in the Vedas. If a king is allowed to hunt in a forest, it is not for his sense gratification. We cannot simply experiment in the art of killing. If a king, being afraid to meet rogues and thieves, kills poor animals and eats their flesh comfortably at home, he must lose his position. Because in this age, kings have such demoniac propensities, monarchy is abolished by the laws of nature in every country. People have become so degraded in this age that on the one hand, they restrict polygamy, and on the other hand, they hunt for women in so many ways. Many business concerns publicly advertise that topless girls are available in the club or in that shop. Thus, women have become instruments of sense enjoyment in modern society. The Vedas enjoin, however, that if a man has the propensity to enjoy more than one wife, as is sometimes the propensity for men in the higher social order, such as the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas, and even sometimes the Shudras, he is allowed to marry more than one wife. Marriage means taking complete charge of a woman and living peacefully without debauchery. At the present moment, however, debauchery is unrestricted. Nonetheless, society makes a law that one should not marry more than one wife. This is typical of a demoniac society. Hare Krishna. Text 7. Narada Muni continued to speak to King Prachinabarishat. My dear king, any person who works according to the directions of the Vedic scripture does not become involved in fruitive activities. Purport. Just as a government may issue trade licenses in order for its citizens to act in a certain way, the Vedas contain injunctions that restrain and regulate all of our fruitive activities. All living entities have come into this material world to enjoy themselves. Consequently, the Vedas are given to regulate sense enjoyment. One who enjoys his senses under the Vedic regulated principles does not become entangled in the actions and reactions of his activities. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 3:9, Yagyartat karmana. One should act only for the performance of yagya, or to satisfy Lord Vishnu. Anyatra loko yam karma bandhana. Otherwise, any action will produce a reaction by which the living entity will be bound. A human being is especially meant to attain liberation from the bondage of birth, death, old age, and disease. He is therefore directed by the Vedic regulated principles to work in such a way that he may fulfill his desires for sense gratification, and at the same time gradually become freed from material bondage. Action according to such principles is called knowledge. Indeed, the word Veda means knowledge. The words Jnanina na salipyate indicate that by following the Vedic principles, one does not become involved in the actions and reactions of his fruitive activities. Everyone is therefore advised to act in terms of the Vedic injunctions and not irresponsibly. When a person within a state acts according to the laws and licenses of the government, he does not become involved in criminal activities. Man-made laws, however, are always defective because they are made by men who are prone to committing mistakes, being illusions, cheating, and having imperfect senses. The Vedic instructions are different because they do not have these four defects. Vedic instructions. Hare Krishna. How are you?
Good.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
What's your name?
Dmitri.
Dmitri. Hare Krishna.
Hare
The Vedic instructions are different because they do not have these four defects. Vedic instructions are not subject to mistakes. The knowledge of the Vedas is knowledge received directly from God, and there is consequently no question of illusion, cheating, mistakes, or imperfect senses. I'm sorry, I didn't remember your name. Sorry. Hare Krishna.
No problem.
Now I'm remembering. The original creature in Srimad-Bhagavatam, where are we? All Vedic knowledge is perfect because it is received directly from God by the Parampara, the disciplic succession. In Srimad-Bhagavatam 1.1.1, it is said, Tene Brahmarida Yaadi Kabaye. The original creature of this universe, known as the Adi Kavi, or Lord Brahma, was instructed by Krishna through the heart. After receiving these Vedic instructions from Lord Krishna himself, Brahma distributed the knowledge to Vyasa. Brahma distributed the knowledge by the Parampara system to Narada, and Narada in turn distributed the knowledge to Vyasa. In this way, Vedic knowledge is perfect. If we act according to Vedic knowledge, there is no question of being involved in sinful activities. Text 8. Otherwise, a person who acts whimsically falls down due to false prestige. Thus he becomes involved in the laws of nature, which are composed of three qualities: goodness, passion, and ignorance. In this way, a living entity becomes devoid of its real intelligence and becomes perpetually lost in the cycle of birth and death. Thus he goes up and down from a microbe and stool to a high position in the Brahmaloka planet. Purport. There are many important words in this verse. The first is anyata, otherwise, which indicates one who does not care for the Vedic rules and regulations. The rules and regulations laid down in the Vedas are called Shastra Vidhi. Bhagavad Gita clearly states that one who does not accept the Shastra Vidhi, or rules and regulations mentioned in the Vedic scriptures, and acts whimsically or puffed up with false pride, never attains perfection in this life, nor does he attain happiness or liberation from the material condition. Yak Shastra Vidhim Utsrija Vartate Kama Karataha Na Sasidhyam Avapnoti Na Sukham Na Param Gatim. He who discards scriptural injunctions and acts according to his own whims attains neither perfection nor happiness nor the supreme destination. Bhagavad Gita 16:23. Thus, one who is deliberately transgressing the rules and regulations of the Shastras is simply involving himself more and more in material existence in the three modes of material nature. Human society should therefore follow the Vedic principles of life, which are summarized in Bhagavad Gita. Otherwise, life in material existence will continue. Foolish persons do not know that the soul is passing through 8,400,000 species of life. By the gradual process of evolution, when one comes to the human form of life, he is supposed to follow the rules and regulations laid down in the Vedas. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that the living entity, since time immemorial, is suffering the threefold miseries of material nature due to his demoniac attitude, which is his spirit of revolt against the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna also confirms this in Bhagavad Gita 15:7. Mamai bhangsho jivaloke jiva bhutak sanatanaha manat shastranindriyani prakritistani karshati. The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. Every living entity is part and parcel of God. There is no reason for the living entities being put into the miserable condition, threefold condition of material existence, but that he voluntarily accepts material existence on the false pretext of becoming an enjoyer. To save him from this horrible condition, the Lord has given all the Vedic literatures in his incarnation of Vyasadeva. It is therefore said, Krishna Buli Se Jiva Anand Mahirmukha Atayeva Mayatari Deya Sangsara Dukkha. By forgetting Krishna, the living entity has become materialistic since time immemorial. Therefore, the illusory energy of Krishna is giving him different types of miseries in material existence. Maya Mugdha Jivara Nahi Swata Krishna Gyan Jivara Kripaya Koila Krishna Ved Puran. When a living entity is enchanted by the external energy, he cannot revive his original Krishna consciousness independently. Due to such circumstances, Krishna has kindly given him the Vedic literatures, such as the 4 Vedas and 18 Puranas. Every human being should therefore take advantage of the Vedic instructions. Otherwise, one will be bound by his whimsical activities and will be without any guide. The word Manarudra, the word Manarudha is also very significant in this verse. Under the pretext of becoming great philosophers and scientists, men throughout the whole world are working on the mental platform. Such men are generally non-devotees, due to not caring for the instructions given by the Lord to the first living creature, Lord Brahma. The Bhagavatam 5.18.12 therefore says, Haro abhaktasya kuto mahadguna mano ritenasati dhavato bahi. A person who is a non-devotee has no good qualifications because he acts on the mental platform. One who acts on the mental platform has to change his standard of knowledge periodically. We consequently see that one philosopher may disagree with another philosopher, and one scientist may put forward a theory contradicting the theory of another scientist. All of this is due to their working on the mental platform without a standard of knowledge. In the Vedic instructions, however, the standard of knowledge is accepted, even though it may sometimes appear that the statements are contradictory. Because the Vedas are the standard of knowledge, even though they may appear contradictory, they should be accepted. If one does not accept them, he will be bound by the material conditions. The material conditions are described in this verse as guna pravaha, the flowing of the 3 modes of material nature. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur therefore says in a song, Miche mayara bashe, yachcha beshe, katcha habudubu boy. Why are you suffering? Why are you sometimes being drowned in the waves of material nature and sometimes coming to the surface? Jiv Krishnadas, E Vishwas, Karle Tara Dukhanai. Please therefore accept yourself as a servant of Krishna. Then you will be freed from all miseries. As soon as one surrenders to Krishna and accepts the perfect standard of knowledge, which is Bhagavad Gita, as it is, he then comes out of the material modes of nature and does not fall down and lose his knowledge. Nasta pragya. The word pragya means perfect knowledge, and nashta pragya means one who has no perfect knowledge. One who does not have perfect knowledge has only mental speculation. By such mental speculation, one falls down and down into a hellish condition of life. By transgressing the laws laid down in the Shastras, one cannot become pure in heart. When one's heart is not purified, one acts according to the three material modes of nature. These activities are very nicely explained in verses 1 through 6 of the 17th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita 2:45 further explains, Trigunya Vishaya Veda, Nistraigunyo Bhavarjana, Nirdvandvo Nityasatvasto, Niryoga Chema Atmavan. The Vedas mainly deal with the subject of the three modes of material nature. Rise above these modes, O Arjuna. Be transcendental to all of them. Be free from all dualities and from all anxieties for gain and safety, and be established in the self. The entire world and all material knowledge is within the three modes of material nature. One has to transcend these modes, and to attain the platform of transcendence, one must follow the instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thus become perfect in life. Otherwise, one will be knocked down by the waves of the material nature's three modes. This is further explained in Srimad-Bhagavatam 7.5.30 in the words of Prahlad Maharaj, Matirna Krishne Padatak Satova Mito Vipadyeta Griha Pratanam Andantab Gobir Vishatam Tamisram Punak Punas Charvata Charvananam. Materialistic persons who are too much engaged in material enjoyment and who do not know anything beyond their material experiences are carried by the whims of material nature. They live a life characterized by chewing the chewed, and they are controlled by their uncontrolled senses. Thus they go down to the darkest regions of hellish life. Text 9. When King Puranjana was hunting in this way, many animals within the forest lost their lives with great pain, being pierced by the sharp arrowheads. Upon seeing these devastating, ghastly activities performed by the king, all the people who were merciful by nature became very unhappy. Such merciful persons could not tolerate seeing all this killing. Purport. When demoniac persons engage in animal killing, the demigods or devotees of the Lord are very much afflicted by this killing. Demoniac civilizations in this modern age maintain various types of slaughterhouses all over the world. Rascal swamis and yogis encourage foolish persons to go on eating flesh and killing animals, and at the same time continue their so-called meditation and mystical practices. All these affairs are ghastly, and a compassionate person, namely a devotee of the Lord, becomes very unhappy to see such a sight. The hunting process is also carried on in a different way, as we have already explained. Hunting women, drinking different types of liquor, becoming intoxicated, killing animals, and enjoying sex, all serve as the basis of modern civilization. Vaishnavas are unhappy to see such a situation in the world, and therefore they are very busy spreading this Krishna consciousness movement. The devotees are pained to see the hunting and killing of animals in the forest, the wholesale slaughter of animals in the slaughterhouses, and the exploitation of young girls in brothels that function under different names as clubs and societies. Being very much compassionate upon the killing of animals in sacrifice, the great sage Narada began his instructions to King Prachinabarishat. In these instructions, Narada Muni explained that devotees like him are very much afflicted by all the killing that goes on in human society. Not only are saintly persons afflicted by this killing, but even God himself is afflicted and therefore comes down in the incarnation of Lord Buddha. Jayadev Goswami therefore sings, Sadaya Yuridaya Dashita Pashugatam. Simply to stop the killing of animals, Lord Buddha compassionately appeared. Some rascals put forward the theory that an animal has no soul, or is something less, or something like dead stone. In this way, they rationalize that there is no sin in animal killing. Actually, animals are not dead stone, but the killers of animals are stone-hearted. Consequently, no reason or philosophy appeals to them. They continue keeping slaughterhouses and killing animals in the forest. The conclusion is that one who does not care for the instructions of saintly persons, like Narada and his disciplic succession, surely falls into the category of Nashta Pragya and thus goes to hell. Text 10. In this way, King Puranjana killed many animals, including rabbits, boars, buffalo, bison, black deer, porcupines, and other game animals. After killing and killing, the king became very tired. Purport. A person in the mode of ignorance commits many sinful activities. In the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Srila Rupa Goswami explains that a man becomes sinful out of ignorance only. The resultant effect of sinful life is suffering. Those who are not in knowledge, who commit violations of the standard laws, are subject to be punished under criminal laws. Similarly, the laws of nature are very stringent. If a child touches fire without knowing the effect, he must be burned, even though he is only a child. If a child violates the law of nature, there is no compassion. Only through ignorance does a person violate the laws of nature, and when he comes to knowledge, he does not commit any more sinful acts. The king became tired after killing so many animals. When a man comes in contact with a saintly person, he becomes aware of the stringent laws of nature, and thus becomes a religious person. Irreligious persons are like animals, but in this Krishna consciousness movement, such persons can come to a sense of understanding things as they are, and abandon the four principles of prohibited activities, namely illicit sex life, meat eating, gambling, and intoxication. This is the beginning of religious life. Those who are so-called religious and indulge in these four principles of prohibited activities are pseudo-religionists. Religious life and sinful activity cannot parallel one another. If one is serious in accepting a religious life or the path of salvation, he must adhere to the four basic rules and regulations. However sinful a man may be, if he receives knowledge from the proper spiritual master and repents his past activities in his sinful life and stops them, he immediately becomes eligible to return home, back to Godhead. This is made possible just by following the rules and regulations given by the Shastra and following the bona fide spiritual master. At present, the whole world is on the verge of retiring from a blind materialistic civilization, which may be likened to hunting animals in the forest. People should take advantage of this Krishna consciousness movement and leave their troublesome life of killing. It is said that the killers of animals should neither live nor die. If they live only to kill animals and enjoy women, life is not very prosperous. And as soon as a killer dies, he enters the cycle of birth and death in the lower species of life. That also is not desirable. The conclusion is that killers should retire from the killing business and take to this Krishna consciousness movement to make life perfect. A confused, frustrated man cannot get relief by committing suicide, because suicide will simply lead him to take birth in the lower species of life or to remain a ghost, unable to attain a gross material body. Therefore, the perfect course is to retire altogether from sinful activities and take up Krishna consciousness. In this way, one can become completely perfect and go back home, back to Godhead. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Text 11. After this, the king, very much fatigued, hungry and thirsty, returned to his royal palace. After returning, he took a bath and had an appropriate dinner. Then he took rest and thus became freed from all restlessness. Purport. A materialistic person works throughout the whole week very, very hard. He is always asking, where is money? Where is money? Then at the end of the week, he wants to retire from these activities and go to some secluded place to rest. King Puranjana returned to his home because he was very much fatigued from hunting animals in the forest. In this way, his conscience came to stop him from committing further sinful activities and make him return home. In Bhagavad Gita, materialistic persons are described as duskritina, which indicates those who are always engaged in sinful activities. When a person comes to his senses and understands how he is engaging in sinful activities, he returns to his conscience, which is herein figuratively described as the palace. Generally, a materialistic person is infected by the material modes of passion and ignorance. The results of passion and ignorance are lust and greed. In the life of a materialist, activity means working in lust and greed. However, when he comes to his senses, he wants to retire. According to Vedic civilization, such retirement is positively recommended, and this portion of life is called vanaprastha. Retirement is absolutely necessary for a materialist who wants to become free from the activities of a sinful life. King Puranjana's coming home, taking bath, and having an appropriate dinner indicate that a materialistic person must retire from sinful activities and become purified by accepting a spiritual master and hearing from him about the values of life. If one would do this, he would feel completely refreshed, just as one feels after taking a bath. After receiving initiation from a bona fide spiritual master, one must abandon all kinds of sinful activities, namely illicit sex, intoxication, gambling, and meat eating. The word uchitahara, used in this verse is important. Uchita means appropriate. One must eat appropriately and not take after food as hogs take after stool. For a human being, there are eatables described in Bhagavad Gita 17:8 as sattvika dara, or food in the mode of goodness. I'll read that again. For a human being, there are eatables described in Bhagavad Gita 17:8 as sattvika dara, or food in the mode of goodness. One should not indulge in eating food in the modes of passion and ignorance. This is called uchitahara, or appropriate eating. One who is always eating meat or drinking liquor, which is eating and drinking in passion and ignorance, must give these things up, so that his real consciousness may be awakened. In this way, one may become peaceful and refreshed. If one is restless or fatigued, one cannot understand the science of God. As stated in Srimad-Bhagavatam 1.2.20, Evam prasanamana so Bhagavad Bhakti Yogataha Bhagavat Tattva Vijnanam Mukta Sangas Jayate. Unless one can become free from the influence of passion and ignorance, he cannot be pacified. And without being pacified, one cannot understand the science of God. King Puranjana's returning home is indicative of man's returning to his original consciousness, known as Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is absolutely necessary for one who has committed a lot of sinful activities, especially animal killings, killing animals or hunting in the forests. Text 12. After this, King Puranjana decorated his body with suitable ornaments. He also smeared scented sandalwood pulp over his body and put on flower garlands. In this way he became completely refreshed. After this, he began to search out his queen. Purport. When a man comes into good consciousness and accepts a saintly person as a spiritual master, he hears many Vedic instructions in the form of philosophy, stories, narrations about great devotees, and transactions between God and his devotees. In this way a man becomes refreshed in mind, exactly like a person who smears scented sandalwood pulp all over his body and decorates himself with ornaments. These decorations may be compared to knowledge of religion and the self. Through such knowledge, one becomes detached from a materialistic way of life and engages himself in always hearing Srimad-Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and other Vedic literatures. The word sadvalankrita, used in this verse, indicates that one must be absorbed in knowledge gathered from the instructions of saintly persons. Just as King Puranjana began to search out his better half, the queen, one who was decorated with knowledge and instructions from saintly persons should try to search out his original consciousness, Krishna consciousness. One cannot return to Krishna consciousness unless he is favored by the instructions of a saintly person. Therefore, Srila Narottam Das Thakur sings, Sadhu Shastra Guru Bhakya Chitte Te Kodiya Aikya. If we want to become saintly persons, or if we want to return to our original Krishna consciousness, we must associate with sadhu, a saintly person, shastra, authoritative Vedic literature, and guru, a bona fide spiritual master. This is the process. Text 13. After taking his dinner and having his thirst and hunger satisfied, King Puranjana felt some joy within his heart. Instead of being elevated to a higher consciousness, he became captivated by Cupid and was moved by desire to find his wife, who kept him satisfied in his household life. Purport. This verse is very significant for those desiring to elevate themselves to a higher level of Krishna consciousness. When a person is initiated by a spiritual master, he changes his habits and does not eat undesirable edibles, or engage in the eating of meat, the drinking of liquor, illicit sex, or gambling. Sattvika ahara foods in the mode of goodness. Sattvika ahara, foodstuffs in the mode of goodness, are described in the Shastras as wheat, rice, vegetables, fruits, milk, sugar, and milk products. Simple food like rice, dal, chapatis, vegetables, milk, and sugar constitute a balanced diet, but sometimes it is found that an initiated person, in the name of prasad, eats very luxurious foodstuffs. Due to his past sinful life, all the cooks should please take notes. Due to his I mean, we want to offer the most opulent things to Krishna. He can digest all those things, but we can't. We just take a little bit, right? Due to his past sinful life, he becomes attracted by Cupid and eats food voraciously. Good food voraciously. It is clearly visible that when a neophyte in Krishna consciousness eats too much, he falls down. Instead of being elevated to pure Krishna consciousness, he becomes attracted by Cupid. The so-called brahmachari becomes agitated by women, and the vanaprastha may again become captivated into having sex with his wife. Or he may begin to search out another wife. Due to some sentiment, he may give up his own wife and come into the association of devotees and a spiritual master, but due to his past sinful life, he cannot stay. Instead of being elevated to Krishna consciousness, he falls down, being attracted by Cupid, and takes to another wife for sex enjoyment. The fall of a neophyte devotee from the path of Krishna consciousness down to material life is described in the Srimad-Bhagavatam 1.5.17 by Narada Muni. Tyaktva swadharmam charanam brajam harer bhajan apakvo tapatet tato yadi yatra kvava badramabud amushyakim kovarta apto bhajatam swadharmataha. This indicates that although a neophyte devotee may fall down from the path of Krishna consciousness due to his immaturity, his service to Krishna never goes in vain. However, a person who remains steadfast in his family duty or so-called social or family obligation, but does not take to Krishna consciousness, receives no profit. One who comes to Krishna consciousness must be very cautious and refrain from prohibited activities. As defined by Rupa Goswami in his Upadeshamrita, Atyaharat prayasascha prajalpo niyamagraha janasangyasyalolyam cha shadbir bhaktir vinashyati. A neophyte devotee should neither eat too much nor collect more money than necessary. Eating too much or collecting too much is called atyahara. For such atyahara, one must endeavor very much. This is called prayasa. Superficially, one may show himself to be very much faithful to the rules and regulations, but at the same time not be fixed in the regulative principles. This is called niyamagraha. By mixing with undesirable persons, or janasanga, one becomes tainted with lust and greed and falls down from the path of devotional service. Hare Krishna. So we'll stop our readings now. And I'm being told by my doctors that I should stop at 7:45, which I was doing before and it was working out very nicely. But don't lay down. Don't lay down. Found another, there's a seat right up there. Don't lay down. Oh, go on the seat and stretch. If you lay down, that doesn't look nice. Thank you so much. There, just stretch. Like there you go. Okay, here we go. Our favorite time. Well, I don't know if it's your favorite time, but some people's favorite time. It's called open mic. Oh, wow.
Towards the end, we're reading that one who eats too much certainly falls down and becomes agitated, and we can see that it is evident as well. But also, it is also said that in the beginning of coming to Krishna consciousness, one should eat up to their neck, things like this. So how do you know when it's time to stop eating so much and start regulating?
Well, we just heard about it in the purport. When you start to get lusty, then you should stop. I mean, this may sound far out, but even Prabhupada said that if you're lusty and if you read Krishna's pastimes, especially the pastimes with the gopis in the Krishna book, which are put in such a way as to make it very clear what they are, then you become free from sex desire. But if you start to read them and you feel agitated by sex desire, then you should immediately stop. This is a guideline for everyone in what to do and what not to do, what to think and what not to think. We should accept the things that are favorable for advancing us in Krishna consciousness, and we should reject the things that are unfavorable to our spiritual advancement. So how do we decide? If something or someone or some activity or some place or whatever it is, by dealing with it, by associating with it, or them or him or her, and our faith becomes weakened, or we become agitated, we become restless, then we should give that thing up. And if our faith is strengthened, and if we feel steadier and more clear and more fixed in our devotional activities, then we should accept it. So it's a proven fact. This is spiritual science. If you eat too much, you get agitated, or you start to sleep a lot, too much. And as soon as the book comes out, as soon as the hearing starts, then you nod out, or you go somewhere else, your mind, and you're sitting there with your eyes open, but inside your mind's going, everyone. So this is how we know. And it's true that Krishna says, yuktahara viharasya, yukta chaitasya karmasu, yukta swapna bodhavsya, yoga bhavati dukkha. One should not eat too much, eat too little, sleep too much or sleep too little, or work too much even, or have too much recreation. Everything has to be balanced in order to perform yoga. So what is too much and what is too little will be different for each person according to one's spiritual attainment. I've seen godbrothers in the very beginning, when Prabhupada started talking about the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan and how they never slept. I mean, even Prabhupada would sleep 3-4 hours a day, And so they started to try to imitate Rupa Goswami and try not to sleep and not to eat. And very soon I saw one in particular start to have severe troubles with his health, severe, which he never quite recovered from. So one person may need, 4 and be alert all the time and engaged and happy and absorbed in service. Another person may need 7 or even 8. But over 8, that gets into the mode of ignorance. And by the 9 or 10, definitely you're in ignorance. But even within the realm of devotional service, somewhere between, 5 and 8, you got to find your place where you can, not sleep too much and not sleep too little. If you sleep too little, you fall asleep. If you sleep too much, you'll fall asleep even more. And you'll be groggy all the time. Something?
Yes.
Okay. Anitashwar. Our
Maharaj, in regards to King Prachin Bharishat, we understand that Narad Muni personally, he gave him a story of how things are going. That will be revealed later. But initially we see that how much sinful he was, like he was killing each and everything on the planet Earth. And at the same time he was like, because when first time I read this story, I saw that he never killed a cow. But nowadays people are so much into killing the cow and apart from that killing everything else. So are they more sinful than him, or he was, because in this verse it said that he was the sinful person.
they're much more sinful. Much, much, much more sinful. Unlimitedly more sinful. You can't calculate. That's why Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda came to deliver them. Therefore, it's very, very few who can actually accept the association of spiritual master or accept the association of the scriptures and the devotees of the Lord. That's a fact. Therefore, our kirtan, and our book distribution is extremely important, just to make them pious. Our festivals where we distribute prasadam, to make them pious. And on the other question is about eating up to the neck. I didn't speak. I'm leading. I went back to this other one. Yes, Prabhupada said that when you're new, and your senses are just going out of control, then take prasadam to your full satisfaction. Of course, he didn't necessarily say up to the neck. But he did say to your full satisfaction, so that so your senses will become more peaceful, and you can engage in devotional service. But there's a line, and if you go over that line, then you fall down. Yes, Pranita. Then we're going to do the...
She said give a little time to disregard it.
Who said? Is it Rati?
Yeah.
Okay, Rati.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
I wonder if you can say something about this. Sometimes devotees feel like if they live outside of the temple and they're out away from devotees, they know that it could potentially be like dangerous in their spiritual life, so they feel kind of like focused and will practice. But then when they come, like say they come into the ashram, then they feel like safe, so then they feel like they don't have to worry so much. This kind of this phenomenon that some devotees I've heard devotees, and I've experienced it myself a little bit, like it's almost like superficially I'm more focused if I'm in a dangerous situation than, I don't know, can you say something about that?
I see. Well, I told this story, and I think most of you might already know it, but I'm going to tell it again because it's relevant. Once Srila Prabhupada was offering very intense prayers to the deities, and his servant was close to him, and he had just given a class where he said that he would never fall down, and if you come and be with him and surrender to him, you won't fall down either. So then the devotee was curious about what Prabhupada was praying. So when they went upstairs, the servant came to him and he said, Srila Prabhupada, would you mind telling me what you were praying so intently today? He said, I was praying to Krishna that I would never fall down. And then he said, but Prabhupada, you just told us in the class that you would never fall down. And he said, yes, and now you know why. Because I always pray to the Lord that I won't fall down. So what that means is that a pure devotee has a healthy fear of the material energy, a healthy respect for the material energy. So if you think that I'll go out there and because I'm in more danger, I'll be more alert, that's like going into the enemy, across the enemy lines and thinking you're going to be safe. That's what it's like. When you go across the enemy lines in a war, you got to be extra more careful, but you're in great danger. And we shouldn't be an illusion to think that we're safe. That doesn't mean that you can't, it's not that everybody in the world can live inside a temple or live in an ashram. Very few can. And but even if they live at home, they have to follow the principles. They have to be strict with themselves, with the principles. And without the association of the devotees, it's very difficult. We just read not that long ago in the fourth canto, where Prabhupada says in the purport, if one thinks of living outside the Krishna consciousness, moving and being Krishna conscious, then he's living in an hallucination. It's very rare. So it's wiser to stay in the association of the devotees. Even if a person can't live in the temple for one reason or another, then they should regularly be with the devotees and attending the programs and coming and hearing and chanting and, getting a taste in the association of devotees. Satam prasangam amavir samvido. You can't hear Krishna consciousness properly unless you're in the association of the devotees. That's it, folks. I'm stopping for tonight. Thank you very much, even a little early, because we got off to the right start this morning in our recording, and last week it was rocky, like 3-4 days we weren't able to do it because my voice wouldn't work properly because of all the things I'm doing during the day. So, with that in mind, Rati Manjari, one more. Yeah.
Okay. Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. Thank you. Do yet another enlightening reading, which is like a guiding light shining in a dark forest. I have a practical question tonight. Tonight we heard that, among other things, drinking liquor, alcohol, is a sinful activity which should be avoided. Sometimes, however, we find that certain beneficial natural medicines are preserved by adding an amount of alcohol, for example, herbal tinctures. Is alcohol itself, per definition, a demonic substance, or can it have a useful effect? Or can it be permitted for devotees? In medicines, I mean.
Everything in the universe has its use, if used properly. So it's a fact that even Srila Prabhupada used to say the same thing. Alcohol in certain circumstances are beneficial for health with medicines. But it should be done under the guidance of a doctor. Don't self-medicate. There was one devotee, I won't mention the name, but there was a devotee who, in India, there was some medicine, Calmake. Anyway, there's a medicine, Calmake. It has, huh?
They stopped it now.
Yeah, but they used to have Calmake, and it used to have a little alcohol in it. So he would stock up with a whole bunch of them, And I don't know what it was for. Do you remember? Cough medicine. Yeah, right, Calmake. And he started to drink this stuff by the bottle, and he would get a little, tipsy, and it just went, and then he got addicted, and then pretty soon he ended up, shooting guns out of cars and doing all kinds of crazy things, He went mad. He just anyway. So, yeah, even in some medicines there may be a little bit, and if you take that little bit under the direction of a physician to cure your disease, and then you stop, it's not sinful to do that. It's not sinful to do that. But if you self-medicate and end up a drunkard, that's sinful. Then you get what you deserve. Hare Krishna. Okay, thank you very much. Narada Muni ki jai. Glory Premanandi. Hari Bol. Thank everyone. Thanks everybody out in cyberspace, and we'll see you tomorrow night. Same place, same station, same channel. Hare Krishna.